Hey, what's up, guys? This is Dan. I was just listening to a podcast about how PHP insurance is an alleged Ponzi or pyramid scheme. And the person they were interviewing, it was a young guy in his 20s. He said he worked there. And a lot of his stories were similar to mine when I was working at a boiler room. And it made me think of a lot of other stories and experiences that I went through. And I wanted to go over a few of them with you. And hopefully, if you are working at a firm like this, you'll realize it and you should probably get out and go to a more legit firm. So the first thing they made me do, even before I got my license, I was fresh out of college. The year I graduated, fresh out, not even licensed to sell insurance or securities. It was make a list of your closest 100 people that you know. 100 people, that's kind of a stretch, especially for somebody in their 20s. So they sat down with us and made us write a list of everyone we knew. So I wrote down everyone, and I'm trying to think who else do I know? And I'd have to look up old friends or classmates from high school in the phone book and get their phone numbers and their address. We mailed out a stack of envelopes like this, 100 mailers to them, went all over the metro area. So obviously it didn't get any calls from those, but it was 100 people that we knew, kind of embarrassing to bother them all. And that's how we started out our career at this boiler room. Another thing they'd make you do is anything that you're doing this weekend. Hey, what are you guys up to this weekend? Oh, hanging out with my friend, blah, blah, blah. They're like, hey, what do your friends' parents do? I was like, oh, they do whatever, X, Y, Z. Like, hey, let's give them a call. Let's get them in here. Let's book a meeting. I'm like, you want me to call my friends' parents? Like, yeah, come on, I'll do it with you, I'll call with you. They would sit down with you and make you call your best friend's parents. They'd make you call your parents. They'd make you call anybody you know to get them in there and sell them insurance or a financial plan. And then they'd work with an in-house legal team. They'd say, do you have an estate plan? Get your friends in here for an estate plan. I was like, my friends are in their 20s, we don't have an estate, we don't have anything. We just graduated college, we have nothing but debt. It's like, no, everyone needs an estate plan. What if something happens to you? You don't want to put that burden on your parents. You don't want to put that burden on them. Get an estate plan for everyone. So everyone we knew, we had to call and try to pitch this estate plan to people in their 20s with basically a zero net worth. It was such a waste of time and energy because when you're young, my opinion is you really don't need that. But it was this constant sales pressure, constant, get everyone in there, get them a financial plan, get them an estate plan, whether they need it or not. Now, what we do from 5 p.m. to roughly 8 p.m., this is a 12-hour day job. We would cold call. We would call and try to get people in to book meetings to try to get them in for financial plan, estate plan. That's all we did all day. 6 o'clock rolls around, 7 o'clock rolls around, no one's booking meetings this one day. He said, all right, the manager came in who was about 28 years old. The manager came in and said, all right, everybody out of your chairs, push your chairs aside, stand up. You can't sit down until you book a meeting. So we're all hunkered over our cubicles, making calls, trying to book meetings all night. Finally, a few people booked a meeting. We got to sit down. I finally got to sit down. It was horrible and probably, well, I guess it was legal, but really just sleazy sales tactics. We would say anything to get them in just so we could sit down at 8 p.m. It was horrible. Just this constant pressure. If you have constant pressure at your job at a firm like this, you're probably in a chop shop. Here's a good story. If you weren't producing, if you weren't booking meetings, you weren't getting clients in, the manager would take you out for a drive. He'd be like, hey, come on, let's go talk. Let's go for a ride. Be like, all right. And this happened to me once. So we'd get in his car and he'd just immediately shut up. We'd start driving, pull out the driveway, go on the street. And the second you talked, and this happened to other people, and they told me the same story. The second you talk, he'd start yelling and berating you. Why haven't you booked meetings? Why aren't you bringing in clients in? Blah, 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 this and that. And just yelling at the top of his lungs. And I'm just sitting there, I'm like, I can't believe I went to college to do this. This is absolutely insane. And the same thing happened to my friend. And he knew about it though, because he was one of the last people he did it to in the group. So he got in the manager's car and he didn't talk either. The manager didn't talk and they were driving miles and miles. And finally, he said something very small, just like, hey, so what's, whatever, what are we doing? And the manager just, boom, just started yelling at him, berating him, just yelling and yelling. Get clients in, you need to hit these sales goals if you want a job. And my friend, his name was Brian, my friend Brian and I, we actually went to the same college. We talked about it, we're like, dude, this is ridiculous. We have to get out of here. This is nonsense. And after that, that was one of the triggers that made us leave. We finally quit. These stories will be in my boiler room playlist, what it's like to work in a boiler room. These are just unbelievable that we went through this. I doubt a lot of firms are still doing this. I know some that are kind of doing things like this. I'm gonna make another video on how you know you're working at a boiler room or a chop shop, financial or insurance company. I'll drop that a little bit after this, but I want to share a few more stories with you, and there's a lot out there. If you guys have experiences like this, contact me. We'll do a video together and share these stories and hopefully prevent other young people from joining firms like this. Thanks a lot. Don't forget to subscribe.